Guys, it's Jennifer coming to you today with the Monday morning reading. I decided today to use the wisdom of the hidden realms because I just feel like there's something that I feel like it's time for things to just start being brought to light is the word, which is so funny because today is totally cloudy. And I'm used to being in Colorado where we don't have clouds this long. like we get cloudy days, but the clouds usually burn off, and so even on a cloudy day, a lot of times we'll still have sunshine. But today here is totally misty and totally like cloudy, and you can't see very far. And it just felt like, with all the shifts happening right now, it just feels like there's something going on that there is just hidden from us. So I'm going to try to, well, I'm not going to try, I'm going to. I've already been tapping in a little bit this morning energetically, and it just felt right to say the hidden realms today. Just makes sense. So I guess what I would say for yourself is to ask yourself to be open to receive and see what's being hidden from you. Okay, so sometimes it could be something that maybe we don't want to see in ourselves, or sometimes we're looking but it's hidden in plain sight. So depending on where you're at, like if there's something where you feel resistance, then probably you need to ask, show me, reveal to me what I'm afraid to see, or I don't want to see, or what I'm hiding from myself. And if you're in that spot where sometimes I think we also work too hard, like we're doing the work and we're like trying so hard, and it's more about releasing the trying and just allowing ourselves to do the spiritual work and seeing what shows up. So sometimes in trying so hard, we actually constrict, and that hides the lesson out as well. So then it's like hidden in plain sight. Like we're trying so hard to see, and we think it's going to be something so hard when really it's just some simple thing that's like a little shift. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pull the cards today. I always pull cards with the intention of just giving the best message for whoever is in the group. And so just know that that's what I do. Okay, so there's the cards, and I'll actually do card 1, 2, and 3. So you can take whichever one resonates with you, or you can kind of do a combination of all of them, like whatever makes sense for you. Okay, so we're gonna see. Okay, so card 1, it says the eyes of beauty, positive expectations and clarity. So here's what she says. See how there's almost like a little veil, and it's just under her eyes. So I feel like this card is actually saying, you know, the clarity is there. You've just got to look for the beauty in whatever the situation is that whatever the situation is, if you can allow yourself or ask yourself to see it through the eyes of love, right? So beauty is always love. So if you can see through love, then how does that change your perception? How does that change what you see? Sometimes it's like, do you see the world as perfect, or are you looking at it with the veil, right? Are you looking at it through clouded vision? So a lot of times what happens is if we look back on, even sometimes when we feel like we're struggling, if we look back, we know that if we look at all the things that have happened up till now, we're like, oh, I can totally see how that's why everything happened the way it did. So, but sometimes when you're right in the midst of it, you can't see that. So just ask yourself to be in a space of opening your eyes to seeing the positive. It's interesting because I'm doing in the Facebook challenge, the 30-day challenge, it's all about what is your perception, you know, and we go way deeper into it into the group program. But a lot of what I teach is your perception and your words and your thoughts literally create the reality of what you see in your life. So I feel like that's what this card is really about, is saying, whatever, if you have positive expectations, there's positive things are going to happen. If you have negative expectations, or if you're seeing things cloudy, well, that's what's going to show up. Not you may, but that's what's going to show up. So if you can do your best to remind yourself every day to look through the eyes of love, know that all is well, and then kind of like, if you're looking for beauty, you're going to find beauty. So that's really kind of what this card is about. The second card is the Web Weaver, and it says synchronicity, divine intelligence, and cause and effect. And I noticed right away that this is card number 4. 4 has been coming up a lot for me lately. So I'm going to look up the angel numbers for that. But I think it's all about being like in alignment with what's going on for you. So for me, it's almost like, I mean, I don't think it's actually a wand, but I almost feel like, if you can see that, it almost looks like she's holding the magic wand. It's like she's totally in alignment with everything in her world. And so she knows that she can move forward, and that everything she's doing is in divine timing, divine inspiration, and her actions cause the effects that she shows up in her life. Again, you guys, I feel like for whatever reason, I feel like a lot of this is saying it's time for us to really be aware of where we're seeing clouds, when really all we have to do is shake out the cobwebs and see the truth. Again, I've been saying this for months, that it's time for us to step into a spiritual awareness about the truth of life, instead of just the human part. Like, all of the human stuff is absolutely totally valid. So it's not saying that it's not valid, but it's, how do you blend being human and divine intelligence, right? Like this card says, how do you blend that together so that you can move in that energy every single day? So every action that you have, every thought that you have, it becomes this, okay, so the Web Weaver, it becomes a web of life, right? So if you can set your intentions and move forward in clarity when you get divine guidance, that's going to create an effect of bringing into your life what you want. So it's about being in that space of trust and understanding that as you move forward in your life, whatever you're looking at, that if you're in that divine intelligence, that divine synchronicity, everything's going to come to you on purpose. And that, like, all the patterns or whatever, if you're seeing patterns play out that maybe aren't working, like when you're in a web, you know how it kind of like, it has that pattern of that circle. Ask yourself, am I going over something that I've already seen? Have I done this already before? And how can I see it? If you feel like you're in the same situation and you're stuck in it, then ask yourself, how can I look at this from a different perspective? How can I invite the divine intelligence to come in and help me? How can I do it different this time so that I can get a new effect? Like, how can I, so that I can get a new result, basically, right? All right, so card 3 is the Desert Prince, and it says survival and false promises. So where are you feeling like in life you're just in survival mode? That's kind of what comes up to me when I see that card. It's like, I just got to survive, right? Like, to me, this almost reminds me, I don't know why, it's like Daniel in the lion's den. So like, you may feel like you're really in a struggle in your life right now, and like, you've just got to trust that God's going to keep the lions from eating you. If that's where you're at, ask yourself, where am I stuck in the idea of survival? How can I really embrace and understand that really in divine truth, it's actually abundant, right? So it's almost like this is a part of life when you're actually trying to be tough, and you've got to dare to dream to get out of it. So it might seem like it's a hard time right now. It might seem like you're in survival. It might seem like the world has offered you false promises, but it's almost like, if you can trust it, it'll strengthen your faith and it'll make you stronger in the long run. When we fall into this trap, it's almost always our own responsibility, our own fault. And I don't mean fault in a bad way, but it's like, we allow ourselves to get pulled into that sometimes, even though we don't know it. So if you feel like you're in survival, if you feel like there's been false promises from God or the universe, ask yourself, where am I allowing myself to feel like a victim? Like, where am I allowing myself to feel stuck? because if you can reach out to your guides and angels and say, look, I feel like I'm stuck. How do I get out of this? But then you have to listen and you have to actually do the things that they tell you to do, even if they're hard. Okay. So that's kind of what this is saying, is if you're stuck in this, like, just know that it might seem hard, but this is one of those, pull up your bootstraps and get it done kind of thing. Like, sometimes some of our tough lessons are there to help us build our faith. Okay. I just bumped the deck over here on the side, and I felt like I need to do this card as kind of like a theme card, which I wasn't planning on doing, but I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do. So it's saying fairness and balance, keeper of the scales. Okay, this really to me goes back to what I was just saying earlier about how can I stay in balance of the human and the spiritual. Like, how can I be both, right? So how can I know that it's okay to be spiritual and balanced with human? Because we have to go through the human stuff, right? Like, we've got to take care of our bodies. We've got to take care of our mental, emotional bodies. Like, what are our thoughts? What are our feelings? What do we need physically? Like, do we need to eat? Do we need more water? Like, do we need to maybe take some supplements? Like, what do we need to do there? And then how can we still look at our emotions, but then also know that in divine truth, we're a spiritual divine being and we're just in the experience. But how do we still fully stay in the experience so that you're fully grounded in what you're doing here on this planet, in your human life, doing those things without wanting to retreat and bail and only be in the spiritual realm? Because sometimes that is easier to just bail and be like, I'm just going to hang out up here. I'm not really going to be grounded. I'm going to stay in La La Land. Sometimes that feels a lot better and it's a lot easier and it just feels better. But I feel like now moving into, like, I'm sure if you guys are following me on some level, you've heard of like 3D, 5D, which is just the difference in perception. Like, it's just a higher vibration. The planet is still here. There's still people stuck in 3D, but people are evolving to a new level of consciousness or awareness, which is creating the 5D Earth, right? It's just a higher vibration. So how can I physically support my body, know that I'm human, moving into a new reality that I may not understand, right? So how can I keep that? So it's all about just being in harmony with yourself, making conscious choices. Like, don't just fly by the seat of your pants. Like, really make conscious choices of how can I be honoring my spirituality and still handling the human stuff that we need to do every day. How can I know that the universe gives me abundance and synchronicity, and that if I move in alignment with that higher divine connection, then I know life is going to be easy. And how can I stay in balance with myself, right? So am I pushing myself too hard? Am I not allowing myself to rest? Am I only focusing on work and not family? Am I, you know what I mean? Like, so it's looking at life as a whole. Now, when I say balance, the one thing that I think is really important for people to understand is, to me, balance is never everything gets equal opportunity. You know what I mean? Because like, it's not realistic to say when you're human that balance is, okay, 50% of my day goes here and 50% of my day goes here, or 10% goes here, 10% here, 10% here, 10% here, straight across the board. Balance to me is actually a verb. Like, if you balance on a balance beam, you're balancing. It's an active thing you have to balance. To me, balancing means knowing that maybe one day you've got to give 90% of everything you've got to your job, and then only 10% of it is for you. But then you're like, okay, I know I'm almost at my, like, I've been pushing a lot with this. So how can I now allow myself to slowly, like, once that project is complete, can I then rebalance by giving myself some time to meditate or pray or take a retreat or go to the beach, or, you know, what can you do? Now, that being said, if you're given 90% of your time to work, you need to at least give, 5% completely to yourself, whether that means, locking yourself in your bedroom for 20 minutes to meditate, just something to solely focus on you. And even though that's 90-10, it can be balanced if you know that that's what you have to do in the moment. I hope that makes sense to everybody. But anyway, so that's what I feel like this theme card, and I feel like that's a theme across the board. So regardless of what which card you felt that resonated with you. Overall, how can you balance how can you balance things in your life? How can you be in human and spiritual all at the same time? How can you allow yourself to just be? And knowing that, I feel like balance, like she's got the scales there, but the scales aren't always going to be completely even. Like even in the picture, I don't know if you can see, but like one of them is a little bit different than the other. I mean, they're almost the same, but one's just a little bit higher, it looks like to me. So it's knowing that it can fluctuate. Balance can go back and forth. So anyway, that's the reading for this week. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you soon.